Although I technically am a professional, I'm not a professional husband. Right?
To Justin. Growth is sometimes painful, but the reward is worth it.
Stuff that isn't just like, ooh, look at me, I'm married.
It's not even like I'm like, oh, I have a positive thought. I'm going to choose to say this negative one.
Thank you.
Smells so good.
And she said, we need to pray together. This one is really hard for you. But you're doing a great job.
Hello and welcome to the Anatomy of Marriage podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
And my name is Seth, and it is our what?
100th episode.
Woo! Should I do it 100 times? 100 episodes. We did it. That's awesome. Can't believe it. And we're almost going to be, well, I would say in 1 month to 1.5 months, 1 million downloads.
Mm-hmm.
1 million downloads. That's insane. And we're not even hit it. We're not even
At
2
the
years yet.
2-year mark, yeah.
That's pretty
It was
good
exciting.
for podcast-wise, right?
Yes. And today we're going to celebrate our 100th episode by sharing 10 big takeaways from our last 100 episodes.
That's right.
10 things we've learned that we think are helpful and we want to share.
Yeah.
So
what's worked for us.
Yeah.
But first, we want to read the review of the day. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
All right.
We're going to read the review of the day.
Go for it. This one comes from E. I hope you find out who you are after I read it. Thanks for the review. Let's see. My husband and I love this podcast. So many great takeaways from each episode and so many useful things that people need to know about marriage. I love the vulnerability of Seth and Melanie to share their marriage with others, to grow and normalize what marriage is really like. I look forward to listening to each new episode that comes out. Ooh.
Thank you. And it's a
Thank you.
5-star review. Thank you, E, for the review.
That's right.
And if you haven't reviewed the podcast yet, please do that on iTunes. Leave us a rating and review. It helps people find the show. And we're up to like 611. Well, I think it's 611 now. But
all right, we beat
which
600.
is amazing. Yeah. Yes, thank you for sending in your reviews to help us get over 600. Forgive me for the voice. I've had sinusitis.
I forgive you.
Okay.
My angelic voice will cover over your
okay.
voice incompetence.
So, okay, my vocal incompetence.
Right. So after reading that review, I still want to reiterate that we don't have it all together. We don't have it all together, right? This podcast is a podcast that we wish that we had, just because we try to give helpful tips and like real stuff that isn't just like, ooh, look at me, I'm married kind of thing. But it's like, oh yeah, we sometimes cuss at each other and argue and fight and stuff. And we have a growth mindset around it. And I think that's the thing that counts the most. So although I technically am a professional, I'm not a professional husband, right? And Melanie's not a professional wife. We just try to do what we can. So take that always into consideration.
So we wanted to do, like I said, 10 big takeaways from the past 100 episodes, and we made a list here.
Yes.
And the first takeaway that we have, they're not numbered, so
that's fine.
That's okay. But
There's 10 of them.
The first takeaway that we have is that vulnerability really, really matters. And we recently released the miscarriage episode and then the follow-up to the miscarriage episode where we shared our own journey. And it was super hard to share because it's really, really difficult and it's really, really hard stuff. But we got so much great feedback on those 2 episodes. If you haven't listened to them, you totally should go and listen to them. And especially if you know someone who might be going through that. But
okay, so 2 questions. Why does vulnerability matter? And how can you encourage wives to be vulnerable in relationships?
I think it sort of comes down to really actually being on a team with your partner. And that's something we literally talked about last night. We had kind of a long argument thing that resolved really well last night. But that was one of the things where it's like, if I don't feel like we're actually on a team, because for a long time I haven't felt that between us. I felt like I've been chasing you, like we were saying last night. And that didn't feel like a team where we would like turn to each other to solve things together. It felt like I was just chasing you. And so I didn't want to be vulnerable with you because I didn't feel like you were actually turning toward me as well. Like the Gottman language,
turning in
in
instead of turning away. Yes.
Yeah. And so I would say that beginning the process of being vulnerable with your partner starts with actually feeling like you're on a team. You know what I mean?
Okay. I hear what you mean, and I will push back a little bit and say sometimes it's very valuable to be vulnerable even if you don't feel like a team, and in a lot of cases that's what it takes. It's an individual decision to be vulnerable no matter what the other person does or doesn't do.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me clarify that, because I think it's part of becoming a team. So you're not like, we're a team now I'll be vulnerable.
Right.
It's actually like, to become a team, I must be vulnerable.
Right.
But also know that I can trust you in my vulnerability.
So trust is the first key rather than being a team, right? Because you have to build teammanship and you have to build
Teamship.
and you have to build trust, right? And to go deeper on both of those, you have to be vulnerable. So it's not like, okay, I have this in place, now I can do this. Sometimes you just have to take that leap.
It's it's like happening at the same time. Co-occurring. I was going to say comorbid. Wrong. Wrong word. Similar.
Therapy speak. Yes, comorbid is a thing if you have multiple.
But it was co-occurring that I was reaching for.
Yeah.
So, but the reason that I'm bringing up vulnerability is because we were vulnerable in that episode. We're vulnerable in all of them, but specifically the miscarriage episode. And because of our vulnerability, we got a voicemail from a listener that is so amazing, and we're going to share it right now. Hold, please.
Hey guys, I know you like recording messages for each other, and I just thought this was the easiest way to record a message for you guys. And first of all, just say thank you. I just finished your miscarriage follow-up show, and that song was just like a beautiful, beautiful gift. Yeah, my wife and I, we lost two, our firstborn daughter, and then our son would have been our thirdborn, and we have four now. But anyways, that was like 7 years ago, probably the second. And your show was just so, so good, and that song was so, so beautiful. And thank you for that. Also, Seth, I just want to say, I'm so proud of you. So I listen all the time, and like you're always awesome. I love your insight, but sometimes Melanie switches into this. She switches from podcast host into just like a vulnerable wife on the show, and I'm just like, shut up, man, and just empathize for a second. I know that you're trying to help me out and teach me. Anyways, that show, like, there was this whole part where your wife was just being vulnerable, and the whole time I just was like, come on, dude, you got this. You just kept humming her and encouraging her to share. And it was just, anyways, it was really beautiful. So good job on that one. Proud of you. Anyways, I really love you guys' show. Been listening from the beginning. Blessings. Happy New Year.
That's
Thank
great.
you so much for that voicemail. It meant so much to us. And that goes into our second point.
Well, hold on. I want to say something about Justin's whole comment. First of all, like, dude to dude, husband to husband, thank you very much. And I really liked the way that you said all of that. What you did, which is really perfect and is a really good relationship skill that you and I can even work on, and listeners, I want you to work on it too. And we've talked about it before, but it's called the sandwiching thing. So Justin, how did you say that? You were like, and Seth, dude, so awesome, great work, all this stuff. And then you said, hey, sometimes you need to shut up, bro. Like, hello, wake up, slap in the face. And then you put the other sandwich piece on it and said, but you're doing great. This is great. So you modeled, thank you. You modeled in your voicemail to a marriage podcast how to do stuff. And that is awesome.
Yeah.
And I am all over that. So thank you. Also, thank you for your vulnerability. And I want to be friends with you. I think you're in Texas, maybe. You should come out to our event. So
but what I was saying, so I love that you pointed that out, because that's the sandwich model.
Thing.
And I think we have a thing of it. I had made a PDF of that I should remember to post, but but I didn't even consider that. So that's awesome. But then, like, why I was saying it goes into number two is that number two is accountability is key.
Oh, yes.
One of our big takeaways is that accountability is key, and he was holding you accountable.
Yeah.
Saying, like, dude, I love you. Your work is great. I whatever, but please do this thing better. I see this and I think it's, whatever. So that was just really, really cool that he held you accountable. And
you did a lot of things in that, Justin, maybe without even knowing it. I don't know. Maybe just
To Justin.
To Justin. Remember, this is the 100th episode, so it's fairly celebratory. Right. Vulnerability, accountability. Yes, perfect. And being accountable, I think accountability, this is my strong opinion. Accountability starts with yourself. Like in a lot of groups, you're like, oh, my accountability partner and this, and you check in. And sure, that's good. But what is the use of having an accountability partner when you can just go to them and say, oh, I messed up with this, or I haven't been doing this, XYZ. You have to catch yourself with that. And there's this one book that I'm listening to, and he actually just talked about accountability partners and coaches and stuff. It's like, they can like push you all you want, but no one's going to do the work for you, right? So being accountable to yourself, saying what you're going to do, and then actually achieving that starts building self-confidence. And you're like, yes, I'm an accountable person. I do what I say, kind of thing. This is really happening for me with working out and stuff like that. And
it's like, in a way, you don't want your accountability partner to become your like, what's the word? Like,
well, to become a
instead of like going like, I'm like, Seth's my accountability partner and I just come and tell him everything I sucked at.
Right.
That's
right.
not
Because
what it
then
is.
you go, oh, well, I have an accountability partner and I told them stuff.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's the 50th time I've told them,
I
and
never
nothing's
get better.
different. So
Yeah.
that's not good. And of course, we're not saying that coaches aren't good or being accountable isn't good. I believe strongly that it starts with yourself there.
Well, that's the next one.
What?
It starts with you.
Yeah, it starts with you. So what do you mean by that?
The things that I think, like even last night was a good example of we got in an argument and I was being not a good person or good wife. And it starts with the like understanding that I have to be accountable to myself about the things I bring to the marriage, the things I bring into the relationship, good and bad.
Right.
And I can't blame you for everything. I can't say it's all your fault. I can't say it's because I was, I had this kind of childhood or that kind of childhood. Like I have to be, it's like this, like when you have a kids, like one of our kids is always like, oh, I couldn't do that because this, I couldn't do that because that. And they are just like constantly saying everything else is the problem. And it's like, when are you going to say that it's your job to fix it or your job to do it right or not to slack off, right? It's that kind of like, it starts with you seeing yourself honestly and having grace for yourself, but also being like, all right, I'm going to step up my game as a wife or a husband or whatever.
Right. And the easiest thing in the world is to make excuses. Sure, there's reasons for things, but if you really want something, think of this. If you really want something, like, okay, I love going to bakeries, correct? Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
And if I get my
Ooh,
mind...
we should do a bakery tour.
Oh, that'd be awesome. If I get my mind on going to the bakery, then I will make that happen. If it's hard, if I have to drive, I'm like, well, I don't care, right? And that's an easy kind of thing. So I will make up reasons why I should go to the bakery or justify it and all this stuff. And it's a weird example, right? But if I miss a day of working out, I can go, I didn't sleep good last night. Oh, that's a really good reason. No, that's bullcrap. That's not an okay reason. So just be aware of the actual excuses that you can make, because I use this example in therapy often. It's easy. Anybody can take the easy route. That's the easiest thing. There's nothing special about that. Are you that kind of person that just always takes the easy route, always makes an excuse, always doesn't do something because you had an argument with your wife, or you didn't sleep good, or you woke up late, or whatever? I don't know. I'm thinking of Wayne Dyer, the No More Excuses book that we have for our kids. And even in our own life, it's like we can do so much more if we put our mind to it. And you guys, I want you to think of an example. Think of something that you have been looking forward to. Maybe it's I don't know. All I do is think of food.
A bakery.
A bakery or ice cream.
A cake.
Or whatever. Or I'm going to stop and get a coffee, but I'll be late for work, but I really want the coffee. So 5 minutes. What's 5 minutes? Think of all these things that you justify and make reasons for, and you work really hard to do that. What if you put that same amount of energy into, I'm not going to do it how I always do. I'm not going to do that again. And it makes a really big difference. So it starts with you. Do it or don't do it. It's your choice.
And I would say too, that point that it starts with you is in relationship, in marriage. One of the things that starts with you is having a growth mindset that you will and can change. And
I think it absolutely starts there. That is the first thing that you have to do in all these things.
Mm-hmm. And I would say like the concept of having a growth mindset, I know we've talked about it a bunch, but I want to sort of reframe how I imagine it in my mind, because like you were talking about like stopping at a bakery and, oh, I'll be late for work, but that's okay. No big deal. Like, and what I think of is,
I hope nobody at my work listens.
Yeah, they do.
Just kidding.
L listens. So if he's late, L, we all know.
She knows.
She accepts you for who you are.
Right.
But the thing I think is interesting is that when you want to change something, so let's say I want to have a better marriage, right? I can't do the same things I always do. That starts with me understanding that and seeing it, and then having a growth mindset about I can actually change this relationship, but it's the small, tiny, incremental, daily changes that will make it change, not a big, massive, whatever. Those usually aren't sustainable. And so I have to have the growth mindset is almost like the thing that pushes, like if you know when they build a ship and it's on dry land,
right?
And then they push it and
it's on a dry dock and they that's called something, but yes,
a ship slide. So like when they make a ship, they build it on dry land, and I feel like the growth mindset. So often we have a ship and it's not in the water. We just say, man, I really wish my ship was in the water. I'm going to sail so many places once my ship's in the water.
That's a good one.
But it literally is on dry land, like forever. And
Never
so
leave.
many people never do, because the growth mindset piece is you have to literally like, geez, I hope my ship doesn't crash before it, because that can happen.
Yeah.
Ships can break and fall and not land in the water, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that. Totally assuming that. I am nautically inclined. But it's
naughty.
It's that idea of like you have to pull the rug out from under your old habits.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. Those old habits are what stand in the way of what you actually want. You want to sail that ship, pull the rug out from the ship.
Okay.
We have the best analogies.
That's hilarious. Here, I recently heard this. Oftentimes, we limit our thinking.
I recently heard this.
100th episode!
100th episode!
Did you guys know that? Sorry, we didn't know. So I recently heard this quote or this idea, and it goes along with, we always think, oh, I'll do that when I get these 3 other things in order, right? I'll start working out on New Year's because blah, blah, blah. Or, when we have X amount of money, then we can get married. Or whatever it is, we always say, these things have to be in order before I do this. Of course, obviously, there's some wisdom around that. I'm not going to go buy a new car if I can't make the monthly payments and have the finances and all that stuff. However, think about driving at night, right? And you're on a windy mountain road. You are not going to go down the road because your headlights don't shine
around the corner,
what you can't see yet, right?
Yeah.
But when you decide to get in the car, turn your headlights on and go around the corner, then just by moving, just the momentum that you started, when you go around the corner, you see, and then you can react to that.
You want to hear a biblical version
corner.
of that Joyce Meyer uses all the time?
Yeah.
The Red Sea didn't part until Moses put his foot in. You got to get your feet wet, put your foot in, and then it will part.
Yeah.
Pull the rug out from under the ship.
Under the ship.
On the dry dock.
Yeah. So Carol Dweck is the one that wrote the book about growth mindset in her TED Talk, and I think it's DWECK, and that is such a massive thing. So you guys have the tools. You have the resources. Sometimes you just have to do it, right? And
then to the next point, you will have growing pains. So just be prepared. Like things like I think of when I was a kid, when I was growing, my shins would hurt really bad. Like they would ache and stuff, but you knew, well, I'm growing. I was like, nothing I can do and it hurts or whatever. But, when you want to change, and again, this is back to like 10 big takeaways from making these last 100 episodes.
Yeah.
That is something that we are taking away from that
Sheesh.
Growth is sometimes painful, but the reward is worth it. right?
Right. Have I talked about the lobster story?
We have put it in an episode before.
Well, I'll just kind of briefly go over it. A lobster doesn't grow unless it gets vulnerable and is in a lot of pain, right? Because it's growing
inside of its exoskeleton.
A crustacean, right?
It gets uncomfortable. It only grows and knows to shed off its skin once it is uncomfortable.
And then the pressure of being so uncomfortable gets greater than the fear of, okay, I have to go into a rock, being vulnerable, right? And marriage and life is only like that. Like last night, literally went to bed at 1:15, and I feel so stupid for saying that because I'm a marriage and family therapist and we have a podcast about this stuff, but I'll never not share stuff. So we had this, I don't know, 3-hour conversation / not
It was a loud conversation.
At times it was, and went to bed super late, and you will have growing pains. Last night was a growing pain. However,
but we grew,
right? We talked about some stuff, got vulnerable, and then dudes, you can relate to this, women too, because we both get flooded. But I was just like, F this, no, I'm going to bed, right? And you were saying that's not helpful, and I knew that wasn't helpful, but you were saying really rude, mean things. I was like, you can't say those things and expect me to react a certain way.
I wasn't trying to say rude, mean things. It's just it's just how I know
a lot of times, we don't try, but
I just want to clarify that it wasn't like I was being ugly to you. I was trying to communicate to you but it hurts your feelings, like the way I communicate.
Well,
and but again,
how about it doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm not getting butthurt about things.
I hate that term,
butthurt. But the absolute last thing I wanted to do was even touch Melanie, and that may sound weird. Maybe you guys can relate, but I was just set on the fact you can't say those things and expect me to be okay with it, right? It's like, sayonara, I'm going to bed, right? But presto.
Well, who are you? Go ahead. Zamo.
Presto, she said, listen, I know this, and she took my hand, and I even pushed her away for a couple of times, and she said, we need to pray together. And in my mind, it was like, yes, we absolutely need to. That is the number one thing that I don't want to do right now. That is the worst thing I could think of. I hate the idea of that. And that is why we had to do it, right? And it was even super hard. I was like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
But we did it, and we have growth from it. So we've been married for almost 15 years. Growing pains don't not happen after a certain thing. So don't trick yourself into thinking that. And they're not a bad thing if you both have a growth mindset and are willing to get through it.
And that goes to the next point, which is it takes hard work. This stuff takes hard work. Last night when we got into our argument, again, I take full responsibility that I approached it from that sort of old version of me mindset. I just was like, this is what I always do. This is what I know. This is blah, blah, blah. And after talking for X amount of time, and I was trying to make it better, but I was very much not succeeding. And then it hit me. I'm like, this is hard. We need to pray about it. We actually just can't do the same thing we've always done.
We can't figure it out.
This is only getting worse. We're only getting sort of pulled farther apart. And so we literally, I went to touch you, which we never do. I was like, look, we can't, he was trying to go sleep in another room, kind of a business. You were trying to leave and you were so angry at me, justifiably so. And I said, we're going to stop and we're going to pray. We're going to just sit here and we're going to do whatever. And we hugged and sat on the floor and prayed. And that again, so it takes hard work. And then the next one is be courageous.
Right.
It takes courage. Have courage when you're facing these things, because it takes a lot of courage to be like, I was wrong. And we can't do this thing the way we've always done it. It won't work out well. Let's pray. Let's do a new thing. Let's take it in a different direction. We aren't comfortable with this. We don't quite know what's going to happen, but we're going to have courage and be courageous and do this. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was a ton of value in that, and it made literally all the difference last night.
Yeah, and I think going back to the idea of praying together, even if you don't pray, that's whatever. And I like thinking about the intentionality around that. Like, we actually touched, it slowed us down and gave us a minute to go, okay, slow your heartbeat down, slow your blood pressure down, and be intentional about this instead of just going back and forth, right? So that was like, it's a therapeutic intervention even. And it does, yeah, you got to be courage about it.
Courage about it?
You got to be courageous about it and vulnerable. So...
And then the next, and so funny, this is so weird. We didn't model this off of last night, but it really works well. But the next one is lead with love and follow with wisdom. So one of the analogies that I was using, like the imagery that I was saying last night, was when I said, let's pray about this and change the pattern, you didn't want to. And I said, we need to do this with wisdom. And
no, you said wisdom does now.
Wisdom is doing now what you will be happy with later.
Right. And when you said that, that is when it clicked for me. Oh, crap. That is a very true statement. Wisdom does now what I will be happy about later or content with later. And
it's like, in a way, like we're feeding our wisdom when we chose to stand there and pray instead of feeding our folly, like what's immediately in front of me, like, oh, I feel this, I'm going to do this. Like, that's not great.
Right.
And so we chose to lead with love and follow with wisdom. So I want to hear, will you hold my microphone like this? So I use this analogy of cogs, and I came up with a really good analogy afterwards. So I was using the imagery of like, I'm trying to connect with Seth, like two cogs connect like gears, right?
Yes.
And down in the stuff we were mad at each other about, we could never connect on. Like, we're different people. We won't connect there. But if we just like go one step above where we feel everything and we're like, yeah, but you do this. Yeah, but you said that. If we're literally down here, it looks like a cog, but guess what it is?
A not cog?
A saw blade.
Ooh.
Looks like a cog, but it cuts you.
Yes.
So down here in the, like, where you're fighting about things and where you're upset, like...
That's a good analogy.
Right? So cogs and saws is my new heavy metal band. It's going to be on the Labeled podcast soon.
Oh, great.
But so that is literally like when we were down here in the space of, but you say this, you react like that, you said that to the kids, blah, blah, blah. We were just cutting each other, thinking at some point we'll connect, right?
You're not promoting linkages down here.
No, not at all.
Right?
But then... when we, and it was very, like, it was me saying, Seth, we have to, let's just go, like I kept saying, one notch up from where we feel comfortable, like zone of proximal development, like push ourselves up one step higher. Cause I know we want to stay where the saws are. We want to fight each other. Like we want to, but for some reason we think that's going to end up in us getting closer.
Right.
And it literally never will. So I said up here, above all the like saw blades, up here is where love sits. It's different than everything else. It can, and it's, again, it goes back to that verse, like love covers a multitude of sins.
Right.
If I can connect with you up here, like literally cogs connecting up here, we can connect and work together, and it can be, and we can forget and cover those saws that are down there.
Here's a good intervention, because you are better at thinking like up here level, I guess, because I am kind of like overwhelmed by, especially when we get argued, I'm like overwhelmed and flooded and all this stuff. And what if you took, to get people on the same page, like you started out, okay, we want to get on the same page, but right now I don't even want to look at you or talk to you, right? So that's your baseline. You understand that. And then one of you can say in the argument, okay, we're going to start at the absolute worst case scenario, and we're going to say what we both don't want. So right now, I don't want to divorce you and move into a different house and never see the kids. We can go, yep, I'm pretty pissed right now, but that's definitely not what I want, right? We both want that, correct? So there is something that we both agree on. And then we go like one super small notch down.
Cogs and saws, worst case scenario.
That's right. Start there. And that sounds silly. However, these are baby steps. Okay, yes, I don't want to get a divorce and to die, right? I don't want that to happen. So what's the next thing we can agree on? I don't want to not sleep in the same room with you tonight. I'm mad. Maybe I don't want to talk to you and just want to go to bed, but that is not what I want. Okay. And then you actually just go down and down and down. And maybe, this is really good. And this is some theoretical orientation stuff and experiential therapy. And there's this thing called modeling. And you actually, so if you're not watching, you can't see what we're doing, but we start maybe 5 paces apart, and then you say, I do not want to divorce you, and you say, I don't want to divorce you.
I don't want to divorce you.
And then you take a baby step towards each other, right? I'm serious. This is an
Do
actual
it.
this is an
I
actual
incrementally scooted.
intervention. I don't want to live in a separate house and for you to die. And then you take another step together. Okay? I don't want to not sleep with you tonight in the same bed. Are you taking a step back right now?
I stepped forward.
Then you do that. And then you say, I would like to touch you, but I'm really upset right now. Then you step forward. And then you say, I actually would like to touch you. Boom. Then you get hot and heavy. Right? That's a really good intervention. I'm the
So
best.
it's cogs and saws, reverse engineering, worst case scenario.
Yeah, worst case scenario.
It's got a great
Going
title.
backwards. Yeah, I love
got
it.
a great title.
Okay, let's go to the next one. We spent a lot of time on that one, but it was good.
The next one, which has always been hard for me, is lean into positivity. And again, these are all coming from our personal experience.
Yep, this one is really hard for you. But you're doing a great job.
That was funny. But it's something that I think, to me, it's so important because positivity is like, it makes me think of those like plant experiments when you like say mean things to a plant and they die.
Yep.
And it is true. Like
it really is
like
true.
positive vibes is not like a fake thing. Like
No,
we actually emit energy. Like
it's positive and negative energy and whatever. It sounds frou-frou, but it's facts. If you have feelings about facts, then whatever. And
I want a shirt that says I have feelings about facts.
Well, everybody does, but that would be a good shirt. And water does the same thing. Like if you talk to water negatively, like the literal ions in the water freeze differently. And that's a crazy study. It came out of Japan a long time ago. And that if you read that, you'll just be like, okay, this is just beyond anything. So positivity really does matter. And just like negativity, positivity is contagious. Obviously.
It's a contagion.
Right.
But what I think of what I just came into my head was positivity is like a really good multi-tool, like a Leatherman's,
Right.
Like you have it and it does so many things. It doesn't just do one thing. This isn't positivity. Hey, you look nice. Right? Like it's not like it's that, because that's what I thought. That's what I'm saying it that way, because forever I was like, positivity, who cares? Blah, I don't need to do that. That's
a defense mechanism, but we can talk about that for another show.
Sure, but it is literally what I know. It's not even like I'm like, oh, I have a positive thought, I'm going to choose to say this negative one.
Right.
It's just, I don't know.
Right.
Right. And so to me, positivity is like, it's like a toolbox. You know what I mean? It does so many things. It's nurturing, it's inviting, it's welcoming, it encourages
How
growth.
about this? It's energy giving, not energy taking.
Yeah.
Remember the podcast we just listened to? Like good speakers give energy. They don't suck the energy.
That.
That's right. So you can do that for your spouse. And you have to unlearn a lot of stuff, and that is hard work. But
well, I do.
It.
Not everybody does. But
right.
But for us, leaning into positivity is really huge. And I think it applies to you too, because I think sometimes you can be like ambivalent or negative sometimes.
Or judgmental.
And
right.
So in lots of circumstances, leaning into, and it's like the Dan Siegel, like our differences, honoring our differences, but promoting linkages positively. Right. And then the last of the takeaways is having a goal, like having a vision for your relationship, having a plan of like And this is, again, it's really recent stuff, but it's like, if I could see a videotape of myself talking to my children, what do I want it to look like?
Right.
And it's that Ed Milet thing where he talks about if he dies and goes to heaven and meets, and Jesus says, hey, here's the version of Ed you could have been.
Right.
Want to meet them?
Yeah.
And then he's like,
and then you meet that person, and this person is just wild, life-giving, accomplished all these things, has wonderful, and so it would be.
But all along, you could have been that.
You could have been that, yeah. So Ed Milet talks about my worst fear is dying and then meeting the person and everything and all the accomplishments and all this stuff that I could have been. So living every day to be like, I have to. He calls it maxing out. I have to max out every day to accomplish being that person, right?
Yeah.
So you can think about it. What kind of husband do I want to be? What kind of wife do you want to be? Mom, dad, worker, all this stuff. And in solution focused therapy, I would ask the question, or have asked the question of this: if all this stuff, if the problem wasn't a problem that you're talking about right now, what would it look like for you, right? So if you didn't have a bad marriage right now, what would your best, highest version of a good marriage look like? And then you talk about that. Oh, well, we would communicate. We would, have emotional and physical intimacy, and we would do this, and we would be loving and positive, and we would talk our things out. Ride a unicorn, right? And it's not just pie in the sky stuff. It's literal. Like, what is your actual version of, I wish my marriage was this way? Write that out. Name it.
Make
Everybody,
it your goal.
Yeah. If I just had this job, this is my dream job, or whatever. You can do all that crap. All you have to do is do all the 10 things that we're talking about, and don't let up. It's not like, oh, I have all this stuff and you're happy. No, all these things, there is no ending point in it, right? Oh, I want a good marriage. Oh, we had a good marriage today. Well,
done with that.
No, that is absolutely not how it works. So yeah, that's a good one. Have a goal, have a vision, visualize it, and then make a plan, and then execute it. Go for it.
And I think a lot of it is that imagining like the version of yourself that you would want other people to see, or like meet yourself in heaven. Like, oh, you could have been that. Like,
right.
What is that? Let's work towards that. But yeah, I think having a goal is super important, and having that like vision in your head, like a character that you can become almost, but authentically become, like the version of the wife or the husband or the dad or the mom that you want to be.
Right.
You've got to see it to be it.
Well, you have to look at it on the map, point to the destination, and then
get there.
Map out your route. Your route.
And that quote, you can't be what you can't see. That's really hard. Have you heard that? You've heard it. I know you have, but
I've never heard that. But
I've
it makes
said
a lot
it
of
to
sense.
you.
Oh,
you can't be what you can't see, and they use it in context of like women not being in media portrayed as like whatever.
Yes.
And so think of that in family of origin. Like if we didn't see a loving relationship between our parents, it's very hard to become that.
Right.
Very, very hard. So if that's the family you're coming from, you don't know how to relate, you don't know how to be positive and to lean into hard situations and to know that growth is going to be painful, but still chase it. If you don't have that and see it, it's very, very hard to be it. So make the model in your mind. Make a mental model in your mind of what does it look like if I was that way? What would it have looked like if my parents were that way?
Right.
How can I then become that thing and create the vision and then get the goal to get there? So I think it's super, super important.
I do. Yeah.
So those are our 10 big takeaways from our 100th episode. But before we leave, we've got a couple things we want to Cisne.
All right. I want to Lewis House it here.
Oh, you're going to acknowledge me.
That's right. Melanie Dawn, Reichert, Bernil, Filio, Studley. Does your mom still listen to the show?
Probably. I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway, maybe Kermis would. Anyway, I honestly want to acknowledge you for these last 2 years of work. I think that more than likely the podcast started probably 4 years ago when we were getting growth mindsets, when we were listening to all kinds of books and other podcasts and doing our own work. So this isn't just a 2-year thing. So I want to acknowledge you for being courageous and jumping into this whole self-improvement, self-awareness, growth mindset thing. It has been super awesome to see you grow and change and really kick on stuff. You've taught yourself
to edit that out now.
That's fine. You've really taught yourself, well, not really, you have absolutely taught yourself video editing, Photoshop, Pro Tools,
Not Photoshop.
well, Adobe stuff. You've literally really mastered all these things, and it's the reason that we have a good sounding show. And good job, good work, and I literally can't wait until we have like 200 episodes or 300 episodes. And we're doing events all the time. Going back to Lewis Howes, I just heard another podcast. He's on his like 600th episode.
He does so many.
And that's crazy, right? And he brings it every time. Hopefully we will continue to bring it and grow and dive into things that we don't know in
Intestinally.
Anticipation of really good things. So thank you, Melanie, Dawn, Filio, Bernil, Reichert, Studley.
You're welcome. I, Melanie, Dawn, Filio, Bernil, Reichert, Studley, acknowledge you. Sorry, I spit on you.
That's okay.
Thank you for being, I always think primarily of how fun you are.
Yes.
Like, you've always been super fun. I think of you parking the car when on our...
I thought of that same thing too.
like e-braking it and like turning around and all the fun things, like taking me on adventures when we were dating and not letting me be afraid and bringing positivity into our relationship from the very beginning, and having a growth mindset, going to get your master's degree. And I mean, on so many levels, you have pushed beyond what even your family like circle is like you have a master's. That's crazy. Like, no one in my brother has his master's, but he's a dork. Just kidding.
I got mine first.
Yeah. But like that, I've always been really proud of how you work hard to achieve something that takes a really long time, and it's really hard, and you're always so much smarter than I think you are. And it's one of my
I don't know if that's a good thing.
No, but it's one of my favorite things, like when you'll like all of a sudden be talking about some therapeutic thing I've never heard of, and you always will talk about who created it. You're like, it's the Bowen family systems theory, and we look it up and it always is correct. I'm like, how does he know that? He can't even put his shoes away. Just kidding. But but that stuff to me has always been really, I've always really loved it, and I think it's really good for our children to see. And also on top of that, you're so kind to, and always have been, to like the elderly, homeless community, marginalized communities. You just have a really strong heart to love everyone. And that to me has been such a cool thing to experience, and also to watch you do and model for our children. And I'm going to tell a funny story, but it really was like the other day we were at Taco Time. Shout out to Taco Time. It's a great place.
Right.
Pacific Northwest. But this kid, he was probably like 18, had that truck, remember? And he didn't know how to drive a stick. This kid didn't, and he couldn't start his truck, and he was stuck in the middle of the thing. And I mean, I could have helped him, but it was really awesome because it was like rainy out. This kid was really stressed out, and all of us are standing there, and Seth immediately, like without even hesitating, immediately just went and asked the kid, can I help you? Got in, he started the car, pulled it up to the thing, and the kid was like, thank you so much. And there's just something about your heart to give and help and love people who you don't know that makes me proud and happy, and I love you for it. And it's just so sweet, and I've always been really thankful for that, and excited for how that's going to how we can use that in the future of the show and at events, and how we can turn that into a model for people who don't have families that do that, or dads that do that, or know men that do that. Because I think it's so powerful, and I don't know many men like that. So,
Thanks. Right here.
But anyway.
Yeah. Thank you.
Smell so good.
Thanks.
But yeah, so that's our 100th episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here for these 100 episodes. If you haven't heard them all, go back and listen to them all.
So our next thing is 100 live events. Ooh. Right?
That isn't our next thing.
Yeah,
but-
it's not our next thing. But speaking of live events, we are actually doing our first live events, one in February. Actually, 2 in February. So let me give you the deets here. And on February 15th, we will be in Dallas, Texas, actually Keller, Texas, at Fellowship of the Parks Church, right? And it is an event with us and one other speaker. It's called a hot and spicy date night, which is going to be insane.
It's going to be so fun. We cannot wait.
It's going to be so interesting. So we're going to speak there. We're doing 2 sessions and then another third session and a Q&A. And the third session is going to be on sex and intimacy, and we'll answer questions, just talk about stuff. And we're going to have salsa dancing.
We're going to have a masseuse teach couples massages. We're
Right.
going to do dancing. We're going to have sex and intimacy breakout sessions.
Right.
We're going to talk about communication, family of origin, pursue, and then Roger, the person we're doing this with, who is amazing, is going to talk about pursuing relationship.
Right.
What were you saying? Sorry.
No, tickets are only $30. Are you kidding? $30
For a couple.
And there is free childcare there. And I think that it's going to be a really big event, like 500 plus people, which is
the venue has
intimidating,
room for
but it's
1,000 people. So
Oh my
bring
gosh.
yourself and all your fronds.
Yeah, so buy your tickets. Literally, Keller is, I think, 20 or 30 minutes outside of Dallas. And then also in Dallas, we will be at the Bad Christian Conference in Dallas, Texas, probably on the Saturday. So if you're around, come catch our session there.
We're doing a session?
Well, I'm just saying that in hopes that
he's
we
making
will.
it happen, people.
I'm going to try to make it happen. But if you're in that area and you can't attend either one, which lame if you can't, no, just kidding, then hit us up. Let's go have, I don't know, a coffee or whatever.
Really quickly, if you like Tooth and Nail Records, and if you like Tooth and Nail Records and that music, Labeled Podcast is Tooth and Nail is going to support a show at Bad Christian.
Oh, really?
I think King's Kaleidoscope is going to play, and May and Emery.
At the Bad Christian Con?
Uh-huh.
Oh, all right. Well, that's awesome.
I'm so excited.
Then there's a concert, too, if you like some of these Tooth and Nail bands. Emery was the band I used to be in, but whatever. Anyway.
Sorry, a side note. I just really love that.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Okay, and if you can't go all the way down south to Texas, we are having our very first literal all-day event, AOM Con 2019 Chicago, which is going to be huge. It is at Missio Dei Church in Wrigleyville, which is literally downtown Chicago. And it's for singles, it's for couples. It's going to be from 9 to 5, and then we're going to have a literal epic dance party afterwards from 7 to 10. There's going to be an open bar. There's going to be snacks and tickets for that. I think singles tickets,
Hold on,
early
I'll
bird
read
will... Singles tickets, I think, are $40.
Single tickets are $40.
Yes.
And then for couples, but early bird, sorry.
Yeah, these are early bird prices.
Single tickets are $40 a person. Early bird couples tickets are $75 a couple. And then the day of the event, the prices go up to $55 for individuals and then $100 for couples.
For couples. Yeah, but think about it. You get a literal all day training from 9
We're
to 5.
We're going to do live episode
with
recording.
us. Yeah, we're gonna do a live podcast.
Q&A.
We're gonna do some Q&A stuff. And then I would pay $40 just to go to a dance party with an open bar. Are you kidding?
I'd pay $40 just to see my golden shoes.
Ooh, yeah, me too. So that's in Chicago on March 2nd. Right? March 2nd. And I believe there's probably 300 or 350 capacity tickets on there. And you guys are going to really have a lot of takeaways from this. We're going to talk about so many things. And it'll be really chill and super cool to hang out. We will link an Eventbrite.
We're going to start
We'll
getting
give the link for Eventbrite in I don't know, later. They should go on sale this week. Today is the 12th, Saturday, January 12th. They're going to go on sale this following week. So please get your tickets, buy them early. That's going to be so awesome. I'm so excited. I can't believe it. We're doing live events. We said we were going to do live events a long time ago. Yeah.
We haven't even talked about Florida.
Ooh.
We have another one coming up in September.
An actual retreat.
Like a beach getaway. We cannot wait.
Yeah.
That's going to be with Michael Smalley and I
probably
think Roger too.
Who else knows?
But we're so excited.
This is too much.
And then someone did talk about us coming to Australia come on.
Oh,
yeah,
are you
we'll go
kidding?
to Australia. Make it happen.
And then we're
Gavin.
also thinking about doing a Seattle Pacific Northwest all-day retreat
So-
too. Which you guys, I forgot one thing at the Chicago conference. If you're an Emery fan, speaking of tooth and nail bands,
Oh, yeah.
Devin Shelton, one of my best friends, I played t-ball with him when I was freaking 5 years old. Will be at AOM Con 2019 Chicago doing some live sets, answering some questions and stuff, and he's a great guy.
Yeah,
and
he's
that'll be a
wonderful.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
So there's
He'll be singing
if
music.
you missed the
and-
Chicago conference, then I can't even be friends with you.
That's not nice. Lean into positivity and wisdom. If you can make
It'll be
it,
good
we
for me
wanna
not to
see
be
you.
friends with you if you don't go.
People can't go that far
I
sometimes.
know, I'm just kidding.
So yeah,
do it.
we're gonna share all this information on Facebook and
Right.
Instagram and get it out, and sign up for our email newsletter. We'll try to get more email people going on so that we can share these things really
right.
efficiently. And we can't wait. Thank you again for being here for 100 episodes. I cannot believe it.
I know.
It's so exciting. And I looking forward to what's coming around the bend.
Good job, Mel.
Love you, man.
Love you, girl. All right. Peace out, people.
Bye.